We have not yet heard Mamdani say that if a representative of the revolutionary government of Iran sets foot in New York, that they will be arrested. Why? Why is it only the prime ministers of India and Israel who must be arrested in New York?
You've written for the New York Post about Zohran Mamdani's delusions of grandeur. The mayor of New York City, his ambitions, his focus appears to be on international issues. He says he's all about New Yorkers, but he can't help weigh in on foreign policy.
Yes, that's right. Zohran Mamdani has announced that he would have Benjamin Netanyahu arrested, the Israeli prime minister arrested, if he were to set foot in New York. Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, was in New York last year for the United Nations. Most countries in the world, in fact, almost all countries, send representatives to the United Nations. It's one of the things about the UN being in New York. Lots of world leaders come here. But Mamdani decided to single out the prime minister of the Jewish state, but he's also in the past described the prime minister of the world's biggest Hindu state as also being a war criminal. And this is very interesting to me, because why would somebody frankly, let's be honest about it, he's of a Muslim background, and he seems to be just reiterating certain Muslim political talking points. He is. It's to attack a Hindu leader. It's to attack the leader of the one Jewish state. And I mean, this is just something we have seen a lot in Europe in recent years. And it's very striking seeing this kind of Islamic politics come to New York, because last year at the United Nations, the so-called president of the Revolutionary Islamic Republic of Iran spoke on the stage of the United Nations. We have not yet heard Mamdani say that if a representative of the revolutionary government of Iran sets foot in New York, that they will be arrested. Why? Why is it only the prime ministers of India and Israel who must be arrested in New York? Why, when President Erdogan of Turkey comes to the United Nations each year, I'm sorry, but the president of Turkey is currently occupying the north of Cyprus, which is an EU member state. Recep Tayyip Erdogan is an occupier. He's literally occupying at the moment. He's been repressing and attacking the stateless Kurdish people for decades. Why is Mamdani not calling for the detention and arrest of President Erdogan? I'm afraid this is Islamist politicking on the international stage being brought to the domestic stage in New York, and I think it has no place in a mayoral race. But it's very telling that this sort of politics has now even entered New York mayoral politics.
I think Mamdani's rise surprised a lot of people, because I think that there was a presumption that somebody who had the combination of basically no meaningful history of being able to govern anything. I mean, Mamdani went to an elite college, didn't get into Columbia, where his father teaches post-colonial studies, that most useful of profession. But Mamdani, after college, tried to make it as a rapper, failed at that. So obviously he should be mayor of New York. And I think that's eminent qualification for that role. I think that most people thought that somebody who had so little experience and who also had such a track record of just radical left politics, who had a terrible record of basically watering some of the nastiest and darkest bigotries of our time, couldn't possibly make it to the final round, let alone to get the nomination. There's a very strange radical left platform that always prioritizes the same things. You can completely predict their policies. Of course, they'll say this about trans. Of course, they'll not be able to condemn a phrase like globalize the Intifada. I mean, just think about that for a moment. There have been these struggle sessions where Mamdani has tried to explain why globalize the Intifada is not a bad phrase, means something other than it means. The words don't mean what the words mean. But just consider for a moment that, Intifada, there have been two in Israel in recent decades, Intifada is a violent struggle in which, among other things, American students were blown up at the cafeteria of an Israeli university whilst they were buying and enjoying a morning coffee and a break from there. The Intifada meant a suicide bomber walking in to a student cafe and detonating and killing Americans. And you think globalizing that's a good idea? How will New Yorkers feel if they actually ever felt that? Like, if you actually globalize what I just described, it means you support the idea of people going into downtown coffee shops or universities and leaving bombs there and blowing up everyone for the crime of having coffee. That's what Globalize the Intifada means. You think that's hard to condemn? You think you should be hot for gender transition and also hot for suicide bombing in New York cafes? Really? Those are your priorities? Those are your principles? This is unfortunately what we've seen in the election of Mamdani is the normalization of rhetoric and ideas that used to be just way out from the permitted center or mainstream of American public life, American politics.
But I consider my own faith, Islam, a religion built upon a narrative of migration. The story of the Hijrah reminds us that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a stranger too, who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina. Surah An-Nahl 1642 tells us, as for those who immigrated in the cause of Allah after being persecuted, we will surely bless them with a good home in this world. Or, as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Islam began as something strange and will go back to being strange. So glad tidings to the strangers.
Douglas, I feel like he left out a few pertinent facts there, like what happened in Medina or how Islam spread from continent to continent, from Africa to Europe.
There's quite a lot left out there, Rita, isn't there? But I mean, firstly, it is rather strange hearing any politician, not least the mayor of New York, talking like this. I mean, it's like a sermon, really. And because of attitudes towards faith in America, like in most countries, we tend to keep personal faith out of politics. Zohran Mamdani is clearly, ostentatiously trying to introduce his faith into politics, and is doing so, of course, as we saw there, in a very sort of dishonest way, frankly. It's not the case that the founder of Islam was just a sort of migrant roaming around the Arabian Peninsula, cast out and effectively sort of seeking to cross the southern border of the United States and do some gardening work or something. It's not just dishonest, but there's something slightly sinister about it, frankly, because as you say, Rita, the actual story of the spread of Islam is not one of a sort of peaceful caravan of people sort of crossing over a border and asking if they can work off the books and do a bit of Deliveroo work. It's just not the story. The story of Islam and its founding was that it was spread by the sword. And so it's strange to hear a mayor of New York, or indeed any American politician, talking like this, but particularly strange when they're obviously so deliberately leaving out every pertinent detail.
And the crowd just laps it up. They just applause, no critical thinking. It's quite depressing.